This is a conversation with Disha Sarawgi and Mohammed Kabir. Disha and Kabir both work at Corvus Robotics. Disha is the head of special projects and an early employee at Corvus, while Kabir is a co-founder and the CTO at Corvus. Corvus Robotics is a Boston-based startup that makes a drone to fly around warehouses and help with inventory management. Their drone, the Corvus One, seems to promise to reduce inventory loss in warehouses, which currently happens to a staggering rate, as you'll find out in the interview. They speak about flying their drone in warehouses, working with customers, safety, fleet management, how Corvus is funded, and they give advice to aspiring entrepreneurs. This is the Sense Think Act podcast. I'm Audrow Nash. Thank you to our founding sponsor, Open Robotics. And here is my conversation with Disha and Kabir. Kabir, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Kabir. I'm a co-founder and CTO of Corvus Robotics.
Hi.
And Disha?
Sure. Hi, I'm Disha. I work as the head of special projects at Corvus Robotics. I lead basically all the product lines here at Corvus.
Mm-hmm. And she's also one of our early employees, one of the very first.
Gotcha. How large are you guys now?
We're a team of about 15 people across engineering and non-engineering roles.
Gotcha. So Disha, what number employee were you?
Ivy's around the second, probably.
Yeah, I think she's the second employee, yeah.
Right after you, Kabir?
Yes, apart from the co-founders.
Apart from the founders, yeah.
I see. So tell me about Corvus. Tell me about what the mission and everything.
Yeah, sure. So when we started out, sometime in 2017 or so, we saw a whole bunch of robotics companies, newly formed robotics companies, really kind of doing great things in the warehouse and industrial automation space. And generally, my background is that I come from aerial robots, so I really love flying things and making drones. So when we started the company, we kind of were looking for use cases which we could automate, kind of putting together this industrial automation space and aerial robotics. And I think we found a pretty good niche and decided to pursue it, which is warehouse inventory management. That's kind of our singular large focus throughout the company. So all our product lines are kind of trying to solve for that one specific thing, which is warehouse inventory. And that's where the idea for Corvus One was born. What Corvus One is, it's a drone which helps warehouses do inventory. This is a huge market. Warehouses lose millions and billions of dollars worth of goods from inside their own facilities every year. And this is the problem we set out to solve.
Why is that? Why are they losing millions and billions of dollars of goods?
Right. So the way warehouses do inventory management today is whenever they send a person out with a handheld barcode scanner, and then this person goes up and down the racks. So these are huge facilities. They can be millions of square feet. So this person goes up and down the racks with this handheld barcode scanner and basically scans barcodes on whatever stuff they have on the shelves. And then they basically write down or somehow tie back into their warehouse management system where this thing was. Now, invariably, because there is a human involved in the loop, this introduces a lot of errors. And typically, I think the nationwide average for kind of the inventory accuracy across warehouses in the US, it's something about 40 to 60%, which is actually quite bad. So they lose half of their stuff just because they don't know where they put it.
How could that be that they lose 40 to 6? They only retain 46 to 60%.
Yeah.
Or they lose 40?
Yeah. So what happens is
why are these?
Right.
Why such a large number of loss?
Right. So basically, the way inventory comes into warehouses, you basically unload from trucks, and then there is a person who is taking it from these truck bays and then putting it in the shelf somewhere. And this person is responsible for kind of doing an incremental scan, so they can so basically they can input into their warehouse management system where this particular thing was put. So it's basically all deltas. So it's as things come in.
What do you mean deltas? It's the change effectively?
Yes, it is the change. So every time there's a change, they update their warehouse management system. But invariably, because there isn't like a global view of the warehouse per se, errors build up over time.
Why are those errors building up though? I mean, if I just put something there and leave it there, it should stay there, and it shouldn't matter that I only have deltas.
Right.
What's going on? Are people stealing some of the packages? Do people move it without you knowing, or like what's creating 60% of the loss?
Right.
Of
So I think it's a bunch of human factors at the end of the day. I wouldn't say that stealing is a big one, but I'm sure it is an actual problem. One of the main things we've seen is people just put it in the wrong place in the first place. So basically you say that you're putting it in whatever, aisle A, slot B, but then you've put it in aisle A, slot C, the one next to it. And they just don't care about where they put it at the end of the day. Because
you mean the person who puts it there is like,
the person. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, they're processing like thousands of orders a day. So it's really hard, even at the human level, to kind of keep up that 100% accuracy in your head.
Yeah, but it seems like getting 1 and 2 wrong if you're getting that level of like loss, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. It sounds ridiculous, but it is what it is, and that's what we set out to solve.
So then, so tell me a bit about how you're solving it with your Corvus One drone.
Right, sure. So what Corvus One is, it's basically a full cycle autonomous solution. It's a drone and this charging dock, which we go and install in facilities. So it sits at the end of warehouse racks. And it does scheduled flights on its own and then goes out into the aisles, scans inventory as it's flying. It finds barcodes, scans them, comes back home, lands, and then we process this data and then send it to the customer, usually through some sort of digital data dump. And what this does is we're basically taking that person who was doing this with a barcode scanner, and we put the barcode scanner on the drone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can do this repeatedly because, well, it's a drone. They don't get tired.
Yeah. So you're thinking of this. So if you were thinking of the diff, so it's kind of like an edge detection in an image or something like this. So you only get like, I don't know, you're only getting the difference. It's not a very clear way to see the whole state of the warehouse.
Right.
And so now what you're saying is your drone flies around periodically, and so you can kind of get updates over time of where all the packages are.
Exactly. And if
Disha?
you do this frequently enough, we can basically get that global view of the warehouse basically every day, depending on the size of the facility.
Okay.
Yeah, generally, like to add to that, generally inventory counts are taken by warehouses maybe once a year, but with the drone, we're able to get the entire inventory count multiple times a year. So that gives you a great idea of like historically timestamped data, which you can go back to and refer to and like locate every item at the warehouse at any instant.
Gotcha. Very interesting. Now, thinking about this crazy loss, that puzzles me, honestly, that it's so large. And I imagine like goods are twice as expensive as they would be if they didn't have this loss. Is that true? Would you think? Like that's probably included in the cost of things.
Yeah, so the way the business model for warehouses work is they just write this loss off. So they account for that loss as they're moving stuff around.
Write it off in what way?
As just lost.
Okay, but
But it's still in their facility somewhere. They just don't know where.
Huh. Interesting. So then, with the perspective of flying the drone around often, you can kind of get a better sense, doesn't require the human to place the package as accurately or in the specific section so you can manage it. Or at least in the one that they say it's placed in, because I would imagine the disparity would be the reason for the error. So then from that, you can kind of see if things are missing. Or like if it was here and now it's not, you at least have a small window of time to investigate where it has gone to or where it might be moved or something like this.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not always just mislotting of items, but sometimes because there are humans in the loop, people also forget to just scan because they're taking care of thousands of orders a day. And it's easy if you're also on the ground level, but warehouse racks go up to like 20 feet or 20 to 30 feet. And getting up a forklift, scanning, and then coming down, going to the next rack at the same height is not an easy feat. So human error does play a big part in this as well.
I see. Yeah, that's a good point, that they're so high that these packages are just stored with layer on layer on layer of packages. Is that the motivation for the drone?
Partly, yes. It's like humans can do inventory tracking at ground level probably at the same rate, but as the height increases, the complexity increases, and that's where the drone comes in. And we
Why
get
does
to
the
do
complexity increase? Because you have to have some sort of basket or something to lift the person, and you need a person manning the thing that drives and holds the basket.
Yep.
I'm picturing one of those like things that they put up power lines or go and work on the power lines with. I don't know how accurate that would be.
It's actually quite close. So they have forklifts or bucket trucks, and basically there's a person in a harness clipped to that, and then they go up in that, and they're holding the barcode scanner. And it's actually quite dangerous. Yeah, it is quite terrifying. Like we've been in them just to get a feel for what it's like to do this manually. And it's actually quite terrifying.
Harness and were lifted by a forklift?
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. I like that you guys do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. How was it? Terrifying?
It's terrifying.
Pretty much, yes.
I'm just imagining like dangling, trying to scan packages. That sounds incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. So being a drone really helps you get to those high packages very easy. It's almost free because you just have to pilot it. Are there other advantages to having a drone rather than like a robot with like a real big telescoping pole or something like this?
Right. So when we started, we've actually looked into all of the options, starting from like a lower complexity. Like a ground robot is obviously easier to build, right? Because it's not flying. But it turns out that when you get your pole 20 feet high, it becomes really hard to make the robot not tip over, just from the weight of the pole. And then if you want to kind of counter that, you need to make your robot you need to increase the size of the base, you need to put in more batteries, more weight, and it's a pretty bad trade-off at the end of the day if you want to do anything of that kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so you basically, with the drone, the Corvus One, you have the drone flying and it has effectively a barcode scanner attached to it, and it's just pointing that at the packages. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And so now it's flying around from package to package, just scanning all of the different visible barcodes.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay. So that's very interesting. Oh, how far into how many systems are deployed, and like where are you guys at in terms of deploying your system to different warehouses?
Right, so we have a bunch of customers. We don't publish the exact number on systems deployed, but it is significant enough that we're getting very interesting fleet insights from them. So,
can you give an order of magnitude? Is it like 10, 100?
It's 1,000? On the order of 100, yes.
Oh, that's really exciting. 100 robots out there or 100 warehouses?
Yes, 100 vehicles, yeah.
And when you say fleet, insights into fleet management, you're meaning multiple of your drone systems in a single warehouse and how to like
True.
efficiently go about
Exactly.
scanning them?
Yep. Yeah.
Gotcha. That's on. Tell me a bit about that. The different things you're realizing at a fleet level of controlling your drones.
Sure. Let's see. So in general, the way we design our system, it's quite scalable. So if we want to scale to a larger facility, we can just add systems, basically. And they talk to each other. The charging docks can talk to each other and kind of coordinate. And one of the things we're just starting to roll out is basically this orchestration engine, which has a global view of the entire warehouse, and then it can basically automatically task drones to go and scan certain parts. Either maybe it's a high traffic area, which we are kind of inferring from previous flights, that if there's a lot of change and we can see that in the data, we can task more drones to kind of focus on that one area and things like that.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Disha, do you have anything to add?
Apart from that, we also give kind of a high-level control to the people at the warehouse as well. We have scheduling online where warehouse managers can schedule what time they want the drone to go and scan what location. So, and then the charging orchestration figures out which drone to send there and autonomously does all the missions and comes back and charges again.
So that scheduling that you mentioned, Disha, it's like you try to avoid when people are in the area, or why would I want to schedule the flights of these drones?
So there are times in the warehouse where there's too much traffic in an area and you'd rather dedicate the drone to less traffic areas. There are different shifts during the day where like probably night shifts have less number of people around, and you want to get a scan of whatever was moved during the day, and that works out better for people. So we give customers that level of control to decide what and how they want to use this product as well.
Gotcha. And Kabir, that what you mentioned for it recognizing high traffic areas that have a lot of change and trying to do them more, I was imagining, I didn't understand what about the fleet management was extremely interesting before, because it was like, oh, you just patrol certain regions.
Right.
But then if a certain region has a lot more change, you want to make more passes of it because you want to hire more temporal data. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So now that you have 100 robots out there or so, like order of magnitude, how is this affecting package loss?
Right. So one of the things we've begun seeing is that we've actually been able to increase the inventory accuracy for warehouses significantly. It really depends on a per facility level how much we can help, just because of facility dynamics, the workers there, their existing practices. We don't have any specific numbers which we want to share at this point, just because it's extremely facility specific. Even like any vague ballpark number I give will be wrong. So
you mean in a specific instance of the thing?
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe you have like an average or something, or like a median level of improvement.
Right. So
like I'd be interested in, like, does it double it? Because the huge, like 60% loss is crazy to me. And if you keep an additional 30%, that would be amazing. And I just wonder if it would be like 95%.
Right. Yeah, that is actually quite close to what we almost guarantee, that if your facility is using Corvus drones, 95% is kind of the baseline you can expect to achieve within months. Yeah. And this involves working really closely with every customer because, again, as I said, every facility is different. Everyone uses different barcodes. There's a lot of moving pieces there.
Let's see. So, let's see. Can you tell me a bit about working with these customers? And maybe, Disha, if you have a perspective on this, I want to try to get us all talking about the same amount.
Sure. So, okay, since the team is pretty small right now, like we are the ones who actually go to the deployment as well. And it's good to have engineers on site as well, because if we build products that people cannot use in production, then it makes no sense. Uh, so going on site and interacting with customers, we get a sense of what they want and we build accordingly. Uh, so like on site, there have been instances where customers have told us stories like they spent hours on a Sunday night trying to locate one package which was lost, and that's where, like, and if they lose something on Sunday, that sets them back for the rest of the week because their week starts on Sunday, and that's where our drones have been able to get them a good amount of improvement, like because we have all the data stored and we can tell them exactly where what package was seen, and it's helped them significantly improve their processes and dedicate resources to uh, actually getting packages delivered. So
That's cool. So does this mean that you have to tie the data that you guys collect into their existing package localization infrastructure? So like figuring out where all the packages are and the map of that? I imagine it's like a grid or something, like a 3D grid where they say it's in here or at this location on this shelf, and you have to like locate the package and then map it to how they actually represent the location of the package. Is that true?
yes, so every facility has their own warehouse management system, which is like where every location is tagged as depending on the rack they are in and the slot they are in.
So it's like a sticker is on the, so say we have 3 shelves or something high, that each shelf of those will have a sticker or something that says this is shelf 1, this is shelf 2, this is shelf 3.
Yeah.
And so that's how you localize them?
Yeah, so it's also aisles, like maybe they're numbered aisles. So there are aisles, then there are faces, like the 2 faces on each aisle. So then the next level is the face, and then they go by the level of the rack, and then each level also has number of slots. So there is a hierarchical naming of each pallet position in the warehouse, which they keep track of in their warehouse management system. And we use the same mapping, and we work with customers to integrate the data we collect into their warehouse management systems as well.
So it's a big key value problem, effectively, with the key being the label of the shelf and then the value being whatever packages are on it, kind of thing. And I guess, so if that's the case, it might not be, basically, was it challenging to kind of work with all of the different warehouse management setups that all of the different warehouses have, or was there a challenge there?
Okay, Kabir, do you want to take this?
Sure, yeah. This is just a huge pain, generally integrating with
it's what I was assuming, but
the number of different systems out in the wild. We have a couple of ways of integrating, like from the simplest version, which we can basically support for everyone, is we just give them a digital data dump. It's something like a CSV or something of that kind, which they can parse back into their own systems.
Value.
Yes, CSV is in comma separated.
It can be processed like an Excel sheet.
Exactly, it's essentially an Excel sheet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so you can give them that.
Mm-hmm. And then we can also kind of go into slightly more advanced integrations where we have some API which they can pull for data, or we can go the other way and we can push data to their APIs. This is, again, very facility specific, very customer specific. And it's essentially a custom integration for every new facility.
We want to give as much value to the customers as we can. So we try to integrate with whatever their existing processes are and make it as easier as we can.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So now, getting into your drone a little bit more. So how I like just how large is it? It has the autonomous charging dock. Just tell me a bit more about it. What sensors it has, how large, what it looks like, everything.
Disha, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. The drone is about
And this is the Corvus One we're talking about, correct? Great.
yes, yeah. So it's basically two components. We have the landing pad, which is the charging dock for us, and the drone. The charging station is about like 1 meter to 0.7 meters, maybe, and the drone is probably, let's say, 0.4.
Like
Yeah, 0.4,
0.5
0.4, yeah.
meters in diameter.
Okay, so foot and a half, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
And the landing station is 4 feet or 5 feet, like a square kind of thing. And I saw it in a video, and I don't know if it's changed, but it's like a fiducial marker, like a QR tag, and then you have the charging dock in the middle of it. So I'm assuming that you're counting that in the 5 foot width of the launch station.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And we generally...
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. We generally mount this at a height where forklifts can go through underneath it, and we are not causing any obstruction to general warehouse traffic.
What was the lesson learned for why you are mounting them above forklifts? I assume that was like there's some story there.
So, yeah, like we generally mount the landing pad and the drone to like at the end of warehouse racks, and that is also a high traffic area for anybody who wants to go into the aisle or come out of the aisle, and we do not want to cause any obstruction for them to take like a larger radius around the racks, because some of them are also narrow passages, which is difficult to get through. So we generally mount them at a height where the drone can also operate without obstructing the traffic underneath it.
Did it get run over, or were people just frustrated that it was like a long path around, or?
So we've had some close calls before we kind of realized that we should move it up even higher. So one of the things about forklifts is that they kind of have two modes of operation. So one is when they're just traveling along the ground and their forks are basically at ground level. And there's another thing where if you have to take packages off from a high rack, they basically extend up and then the whole thing goes up and the forks also go up with it. Now, what happens is, even though forklift drivers are instructed to not move around at full extension, sometimes
full extension meaning the fork all the way up.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. So they're never supposed to actually be moving around with the whole thing extended and the forks all the way up, because as you can imagine, that's pretty dangerous.
Bash into stuff.
Exactly. But it does happen sometimes. And then, well, as you can imagine, they could hit our landing pad or they could hit other stuff. That is why we try to position it at such a place which minimizes any incidents of this kind. Yeah.
Huh. So it's kind of, you have like a shelf side, and then a few feet up, you'll have your actual landing pad, which is just a big 5 foot by 5 foot, approximately 1 point. Would you say 7 meter square?
0.7.
Something like that.
So
1.2 by 0.7. It's
Yeah.
Okay. So some square that's suspended up there, like a little bird's nest.
Yep.
And that has the charging station there. Your Corvus One drone, does it have like guards around the propellers, or like how is it set up? So it's a quad rotor. It has 4 rotors, and each of those rotors has a propeller spinning, and that's how it lifts up. Do the propellers have guards around them so that they don't like hit anything, or is it not a problem?
That actually, there's a story behind that too. So
probably every decision has a story around it.
Yes, indeed. So when we started, we actually did used to have propeller guards around the propellers. But after like doing thousands of flights, one of the things we realized was that if there is any kind of collision with anything, the propeller guards don't really help in the first place. They actually end up. So the reason they don't help is whatever material you build your propeller guards out of, they typically have some amount of flex to them. And what can happen is your propeller guard can kind of bend and hit your propellers instead. And that's kind of a no-win situation for everyone because then the drone, there's like a catastrophic failure.
Just goes and falls down.
Yeah, pretty much.
Smashes on the warehouse floor. Okay.
Pretty much. So the way we started to look at the problem was how can we prevent any kind of a situation where there could be a collision in the first place. And kind of what we've converged to is our autonomy stack maintains this safety envelope around the vehicle, and we basically got rid of the hardware prop guards. And the software makes sure that the drone is just never close enough to get into any situation of that kind.
Gotcha. Okay, so you found basically you could just stay far enough away from everything so that you don't need
pretty much
any sort of propeller guards. And the propeller guards weren't even that good because they flex and they would just go into the propeller and then it would crash. So they'd be like for protecting fingers or something where I would stop it and I would hit the propeller guard, but then the propeller would hit the propeller guard and then it would fall. So my fingers would be okay, but the drone would still suffer the same, falling from air. Why not just use really rigid? I guess, so you've eliminated the need for it. I just wonder about like really rigid propeller guards, but maybe they're heavy and they reduce your flight time, or?
Exactly, yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're going to design with propeller guards in mind, you need to kind of add a lot of extra weight to the vehicle, which might be acceptable for certain companies or certain people working on drones. But for us, since we kind of designed around the problem, it just was never a thing.
Yeah. And then, Disha, can you speak a little bit to or are you doing something with the cable?
No, I was just plugging in the charger.
Yes. Yeah, be lame to have the computer turn off. Can you speak a little bit to like safety concerns of customers? Because I guess what I'm getting at with the propeller guards is I wonder if people in the factory would want something like that. But just general safety things, safety concerns of the customer, this kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. So safety is something we take very seriously because it's a drone with motors spinning at like 20,000 RPM, and we do not want to collide into anything or hurt anyone around. So we have a bunch of software and hardware fail-safes for ensuring safety.
What are your hardware ones, out of curiosity?
We have a bunch of audio-visual cues that we provide while taking off, while landing, while in case of an emergency.
So you mean that the drone has a speaker and it will go like, I'm taking off now, or I'm landing now, or something like this, so people have some idea of its intention?
Yeah.
What does it actually do?
So we have buzzers on the drone, on the landing pad, which make it known that it's going to take off now.
It's doing something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we have a bunch of spotlights to like tell people where it's going to go, or it's flying above you, please take note, or something like that. And bunch of lights to tell you what it's doing now, like it's on a flight, or it's charging, it's not charging, stuff like that. Like anything that you can, as much as you can gather by just looking at the system.
So you have visual indicators of its status, basically, or audible as well.
Yes.
Do you do any? So I was thinking for hardware fail-safe, like if the drone does happen to malfunction, is there any so you mentioned flying above people. Is there any sort of like, I don't know, fail-safe or something if the drone does, say for some reason there's just like a seg fault on the drone, like worst case, and it just starts to fall? Any recourse from there?
Yes, definitely. That does happen sometimes, but we have tried to resolve it with software and
Mhm.
our low-level fail-safes. So, in case of an emergency, which can be like our mission computer losing contact with
Mhm.
the landing pad or something like that, or just even a sec fault, we try to find a safe spot underneath the drone, like because we have visual information of everything around the drone, we can figure out a safe spot to land, and the drone navigates itself and lands safely around without uh, external intervention.
Gotcha. What sensors do you have on the drone?
So for our sensor stack, we merely have an array of like 12 cameras on board, uh,
Are they
giving
all
you
RGB
the
or do they have like infrared or are there any? I'm
um,
imagining like low light conditions or something. So
uh,
maybe, and I think you have depth cameras as well, probably.
yeah, so they're all arranged in like stereo fashion. So we have infrared cameras, and then we also get depth information out of them. We have a bunch of IMUs on board as well to give you inertial information, and uh, it's basically a visual inertial system.
Gotcha. So you have a bunch of cameras. Are all of the cameras infrared depth cameras?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Ah, okay. And there's no like this is gonna sound kind of silly, but there's no like parachute on board or something if the boat. I guess the drone doesn't like hit anything ever, or it hasn't, and so thus you don't have to worry about it falling on people's heads or anything. Like you
Pretty
have a good
much.
track record, so it isn't there.
Pretty much. And also, another way we try to kind of deal with this problem at the root is we tell customers to schedule it in specific off hours
Hmm.
when there is no traffic in the aisles. And then we also do a lot of customer training, and we train the workers there that if you see the drone and it's about to enter an aisle, just don't go in there, wait for it to come back. It's like probably going to spend like 5 minutes
Uh,
there. So there's a lot of like kind of human interaction between us and the customer and the workers there, which
you give
trains
them
them
heuristics.
to exactly.
Don't use the aisle if
Yeah,
the drone is using the aisle.
exactly.
Okay, because Disha, you mentioned it flying overhead and this kind of thing. So I was imagining like drone scanning, people beneath, and that seems risky to me. Like I'd
Right.
imagine like a propeller flies off or something that's like
Yeah.
really hard to control for.
I mean, we have safety systems in place, but obviously the safest is to not be there.
Yep, gotcha. So it can
Yeah,
happen. Like you can fly over someone, but it's not desirable because it's a little bit more
exactly.
risky.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, invariably in the wild, we see that someone wanders in or someone just didn't pay attention to what we said. So we still design for that kind of extreme case where there's someone underneath it all the time.
Hmm.
But in reality, that's probably like 1% of our
Or less.
operational flights. Yeah,
I would imagine far less.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So you have this drone. It flies around. It uses depth cameras to get a sense of the distance it is from everything. It probably. So do you have to do like do you have to map the warehouse first, or how do you? So you bring this new drone to a new warehouse for a new customer. How do you set up the environment other than putting this nest at? And by nest, I mean the launch pad elevated for the drone. How else do you do the setup? Do you do some sort of mapping? Do you fly the drone around? What kind of things?
So yes, you are exactly right about this. Apart from setting the nest, we also pre-map the warehouse, which means we get like geometric and semantic information from the warehouse and give the drone a pre-mapped environment. Um, Based on that, we can define regions or slots that we want to fly in and schedule missions accordingly and fly exactly there.
Gotcha. And so for mapping it, you just fly the drone around and have it. What was it? I didn't
So
quite understand.
right. So The exact process we cannot talk about because it's something we've developed internally, and it's actually one of the hardest parts of doing this, even though it may not initially seem so.
Seems hard to me.
But at the end of the day, we're taking measurements, some by hand, some using the vehicle, and then we're kind of putting these together and generating kind of a unified map for the vehicles to use.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you will custom generate a map for the warehouse, and then you go off of that.
Exactly.
Do you have problems? I guess these shelves, if they're really tall, you don't have a problem where they'll like move a few inches or a few feet on one end as much.
Right. Yeah, we've actually seen that. Yeah, that does occur. It's ridiculous again, but it does happen.
Like we have to map it again or whatever.
So we actually designed into the system, so we have a map update method which basically deals with minor change in the environment automatically. So every time a vehicle goes out, we can kind of update the map and then share it across the fleet. So all of the vehicles know that, okay, this part changed a little bit. So next time I go there, I know what to do.
I see. So you're updating a little bit with your map. So you're doing some sort of simultaneous localization and mapping on your flight. And how does so when your drone, I saw on the website that you only need internet connected to the launch pad. And so when your drone goes away, it needs to probably stay within range of the launch pad, like some sort of, maybe it has a router or something on the launch pad, or does it just go back to where the launch pad is and it doesn't need that internet connection for that period of time that it is in flight?
Right, so the way we designed the system, actually we don't need any sort of connection back to the launch pad while in flight. So everything, all computation happens on board. There is a wireless link, but we don't actually need it while flying. It's just there for, there's a bunch of reasons why it's there, but we don't actually require it while flying. Also,
is it just sending like logging data or something, or what's
pretty much. Gotcha. Basically, information about flight progress, stuff like that.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then, but you don't need that the controller and the getting the data and saving the data and everything. That all happens on board on the drone.
Exactly. It happens all on the drone. And that's another design decision which was actually driven by stuff we saw. So warehouse is like, typically it's a bunch of metal racks, right? It's a Faraday cage. And they're terrible RF propagation environments.
Yep.
So any sort of wireless is destined to fail.
Mm-hmm. So that was why you decided to put all the computation on the drone.
Exactly.
Huh, that's amazing. I started in research in my undergrad doing this kind of thing where it was trying to put all the computation on a drone and then having it localize and maintain a swarm formation. And it was really, really difficult. This was like 10 years ago or something. And it's impressive now to have everything. And your like unbelievable suite of cameras on your drone too. It's amazing how far things have come in the last 10 years.
Also, we have extremely long aisles in the warehouse as well, so that supporting that kind of Wi-Fi range is almost impossible unless you have various access points around it. So we just had to compress everything to onboard computation.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. So now talking a bit more about Corvus as a company. So you mentioned you started in 2017. Will you tell me a little, just how did you decide to start a company? And then Disha, I'd love to hear, how did you decide to be employee number 2 after the co-founders?
Definitely.
Yeah, sure, I can start. So basically, so the company was myself, Jackie, our CEO, and then our 2 other co-founders, Jonathan and Brian. And all of us kind of happened to come together. It was like a matter of luck or chance almost. So as the story goes, I knew Brian and then Jackie knew Jonathan. Mm-hmm. And then Jackie found me on the internet in some random IRC chat room. And I was helping people with drone problems or something of that sort, and we kind of got connected there and decided to kind of start looking into the kinds of use cases which we could automate. Because personally, I'm really into automating anything that is automatable, just because people should be spending their time doing more high impact things. So automation is really a big part of my life. And kind of, I think this is true also for the other co-founders. All of them really care about kind of this problem space. And we sort of came together, and it was a really great team that we started with. Basically, so Brian was our hardware guy. He's our lead of hardware today. He does all of the, so anything you see on the drone, it's Brian, basically. All the hardware, all of the, basically every piece. And then Jonathan is our chief of software. He does a ton of work, both on the autonomy stack and also kind of the, it's almost harder, I would say, kind of the customer integration side, which is integrating with all these custom systems, some of which are from the 90s, stuff like that. And then Jackie is our CEO, and basically, well, yeah, he does everything. And then all of us came together in 2017. This was like, I think some point in the middle of 2017, and I told Jackie that, okay, I know this great hardware guy, my friend. We could probably think of doing something, and all of us came together and decided to start Corvus.
Awesome. And how did you pick the opportunity? Like, how did you pick this specific problem to work on?
Right. So Jackie's family back in China, they were one of the very first generation entrepreneurs in China. And he had actually kind of firsthand seen the problems that warehouses go through, and kind of this, like this huge thing, like as an outsider, like I personally had no idea about what problems warehouses and generally like industrial stuff people there go through. And Jackie kind of introduced us to this whole new problem space where these sort of non-sexy use cases, which could still benefit hugely from automation. Like, it's not self-driving cars, but there's still a huge opportunity.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's awesome that Jackie knew so much. And then, Disha, you joining as number 2, how was that for you? Like, how did you decide to join this company? And how did you, like, your interest in startups at this stage and this kind of thing?
So it was a bit of both. Like, I personally always wanted to work in an early stage startup because it gives you the opportunity to work on the entire stack, get a sense of how everything's interacting with each other, have a good amount of ownership on the code as well. And the amount you get to learn is much more than you would if you were working just in a subsystem as part of a big team. So it kind of worked out that Jackie reached out to me on LinkedIn, I think, and I was in Austin at the time, and I flew down to Boston to meet the team. And I was really intrigued by the work they were doing, and just like being a small team, like they had come far, I guess, with the hardware and the software at the time, but I saw opportunity to contribute as well and get the system to where it is now today.
Where are you guys located?
So we're in Boston, Massachusetts at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see, and then just a more general question about Corvus. How are you guys funded? So are you receiving investment, or have you received like a Series A, or like where are you guys at?
Right. We're a pre-A company. We went through Y Combinator in 2018. We were like the YC summer 2018 batch. Yeah.
Cool. And so you've received, what do they give, it's like seed funding kind of thing
Yeah,
from Y
it's essentially
Combinator?
seed funding, yes.
Gotcha. And then you've just been running on that, and maybe
Pretty much.
are you getting revenue from your customers yet in a
Yeah,
way that can like
yes,
prop
of
up their
course.
company?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we've actually been deploying for about 1.5 years now. We've been doing
That's
pilots
exciting.
before that, but we're doing production deployments for quite a while now. And all of these are active revenue streams for the company.
Gotcha. And so are you guys bootstrapping effectively, where you're reinvesting your profits back in and you're not
Pretty
going to see?
much.
Gotcha. Nice. I like that model. Do you think that you'll be seeking investment as a way to kind of grow faster, or kind of stay off that and keep bootstrapping and keep your equity really large, or what do you
Right.
think going forward?
That's completely open question. We are open to outside investment because we do want to kind of grow exponentially. We're kind of hitting the point where we want to scale up the engineering team, the sales team, all of that really quickly. So we're of course open to that, but everything's on the table.
And you have to find a good fit, probably,
Right.
because you guys are in a
Yeah.
powerful situation where you're not like
Exactly.
burning through your money or
Pretty
anything
much.
and needing investment, possibly under bad terms, these kinds of things.
Yep.
Awesome. Now, let's see. I see that we're coming close to the time that we were saying we should end at. So what I'd like to do for our last little bit is just ask you guys general questions about like where robotics is going and then advice things. So Disha, could you start? And I would like to know what advice you would give to like a 20-year-old you.
Okay, I think that's pretty straightforward because
Right.
yeah, I mean, okay, my
Join
20s
Corvus.
was not long ago. Yes, that
Okay,
too.
well, I mean, to someone else, I don't know. Yeah, and try to
Well,
make it more general, perhaps. But
to young roboticists, I would say just do what you love and do not be afraid. Like if it's an engineering solution that you don't know the answer to, keep at it because that is what engineers are here for. Like to think of problems and solve them even when you do not think of answers at the first go. So just in general, the problem solving aspect of engineering appeals to me, and that is what I love doing. And if you're good at it, keep doing it.
let's see, Kabir, same question. Advice for a younger you?
Advice for younger me. Let's see. I think one of the big things that's kind of been a part of my engineering journey has been open source software. I feel really strongly about open source, and also the stack at Corvus, which we've built, it leverages a lot of open source pieces. For example, we use ROS One, we use the PX4 autopilot stack, and I kind of started interacting with all of these at a very young age. And I think kind of working with a lot of experienced people in the same field, that kind of experience can only come from being on a team. Like individually, there's only so much you can do. Like you can take classes, you can study, you can look up stuff yourself. But I think being a part of an open source software team really gave me a bunch of skills which I use every day now. I would really, really advise people to kind of pick a project you love or pick a space you love, find a project in that space, and then see where it goes. You'll learn a lot on the way.
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the most valuable parts to you of contributing to open source? So obviously you're learning skills, but like what specific things were most valuable in your experience?
Right. So when I started like working on drones, I think this was when I was in middle school or something. I started looking at kind of what the options were if I wanted to build my own drone, and I didn't know anything at that point. I was just like a middle school kid. And then eventually I came across the PX4 Autopilot, which is this open source software stack for drones. And what this lets people do is there is a certain set of supported hardware, and you take this open source software, put it on that, and then boom, you have your own drone. Mess around a little bit with the hardware, but effectively it's a pretty easy solution if you're trying to build something on your own with no experience before. And eventually what my story personally looked like was I started using PX4 as a user, but eventually I started contributing back to upstream a lot of the things which I wanted to do, but the features didn't exist at the time. And eventually what this led into was I became a part of the core kind of maintenance team which maintains the entire project. And that branches out into helping other people, doing code reviews, just a lot of skills which there was no way I thought I would have learned unless I kind of got into it in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Now, let's see, wrapping up, is there any links that you guys would like to share? So in the show notes, we'll put a link to Corvus's website. Anything else worth sharing?
Sure, we have this demo reel of Corvus One, which we'd probably like to show off. I can send you the link after the talk. Perfect. And that'll be pretty nice, I think.
Do you guys have social media or anything you'd like to share? Disha, do you have anything?
Yeah, we do have Corvus on like the Corvus website and Corvus on Twitter, and we will send you all the links.
Yeah, we'll send you our Twitter handles and LinkedIn and whatever else.
Okay, great. Well, it's been a pleasure speaking with both of you.
It's been a pleasure
Likewise.
talking to you, Drew.
Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Disha and Kabir. Thank you again to our founding sponsor, Open Robotics, and I hope to see you next time.